text-to-voice synthesis provided by Vidnami. All roads lead to Rome. January 7, 2021 by Anna von Reitz. China, remember the Boxer Rebellion and the blood of the People's Revolution? Remember how you were cut off and isolated and left to starve? It appeared to be England and the United States at fault, but behind these puppets was Rome, using them as storefronts, scapegoats, and fall guys. Europe, remember all the bloody conflicts of the past 400 years? Everything that has happened since the English Civil War and the Great Fire of London. Same story. The 100 Years' War, the 30 Years' War, the 7 Years' War, the English Civil War, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the entire Napoleonic Era, the Crimean War, the First World War, the Second World War, and all the endless nasty, mercenary conflicts. And all you in the Middle East, remember the Crusades, all the killing for Jesus, the way your trade routes were decimated, and the way that the British provided themselves with a base and promoted more war by creating Palestine out of thin air, and then supporting the creation of the modern State of Israel. Africa, remember how your every effort to modernize and to lift your people up and to enjoy your own natural resources has been viciously stomped on and stifled. Russia, what communist revolution? Again, and always, England is the common thread, but why? Rome. Rome is really the common thread running through it all, sometimes seen, sometimes unseen. The popes manipulated the kings and queens of Great Britain, because they owed their thrones and their claim to be monarch to the popes. There was a dirty little secret at the bottom of the barrel, and the British monarchs were in effect being blackmailed from the days of the Magna Carta to today. William of Normandy destroyed the British monarchy on a permanent basis by dividing up the land mass of Britain and giving it all away to his faithful barons, making each one of them kings in their own right. He guaranteed this scheme by castrating his eldest son and disinheriting the others, preventing them from owning any land in England. That's why Henry II had to go to France and try to regain a foothold on the continent, but he still wasn't a king in England. Just a vassal working as an overseer of the Commonwealth lands in England for the Pope, and alternatively, being hired as a mercenary to go fight the Crusades. So this hidden hand relationship has continued, with the high and mighty British monarchs being patsies for Rome and playing their part in an endless game that they have been blamed for. Even I blame them, but not for the same reasons. I blame them for not having guts enough to expose Rome. It's their hand and foot game with the popes and also the Eastern patriarchs that has cost everyone on this planet so much pain, created so many divisions, and promoted so much violence because they provided Rome with what Rome needed most, a foil. Another side to play against, or at least, appear to play against. Please note that the more noble the rhetoric, the worse the action. Also note that evil means yields evil results every single time. And always, predictably, in the background, England acting for Rome at the bottom of the dog pile, creating the problems and stirring the pot. Also notice how the two, Britain and Rome, interact financially. The Holy Roman Empire always gets the first cut and choice bits of every misadventure. That should tell everyone the truth of the matter, the who works for who, shouldn't it? Finally, notice how everything good gets co-opted and transformed into something evil. That, too, comes from Rome. Not Christian Rome. Pagan Rome, the Roman Empire that has never really succumbed, and which has remained as violent, rigid, bureaucratic, predatory, immoral and insane as ever. The United Nations is supposed to be something good, a world forum for all the various nations to come together to work on the common problems of mankind, and a place to resolve their differences peacefully. But as Dag Hammarskjöld found out, it was really a storefront for a Vichy French Nazi Swiss investment corporation, the UN Corp. The Federal Reserve was supposed to be something good, that very quickly went bad, and which was used to embezzle the wealth of America. Our entire country, America, was supposed to be something good, and yet, thanks to the deceit and criminality of the British Holy Roman Empire alliance, our quality of life and our reputation in the world has been ruined, and we have been mistaken for the US and blamed for its misdeeds. Manipulating the U.S. incorporated presidential election is pretty small beans for the HRE, something they have done to other smaller countries on a regular basis and by various means for hundreds of years. In this current caper, notice where the knife came from: Naples. As all the rot festers out, as it inevitably will, you will hear all sorts of bizarre, "the devil made me do it," excuses, tales of demons and extraterrestrials and fallen angels, but this, too, is a ruse and a game. Wrong thoughts lead to wrong feelings, which lead to wrong actions. Every thread of corruption and deceit and co-option for the past 1,000 years, every war, every wrong, leads to Rome, mostly with a bypass through England, with England playing the stick and Rome playing the carrot. So, no surprises that the stolen election was manufactured in Italy, long the home of the world's most adept criminals, and no surprise that the Italian government is on the hook for the Vatican's misdeeds again. Unfortunately, all the Italian government's promises to reform, its fine actions discovering the plots and acts of the criminals, its most determined efforts to do what is right and avoid being stomped on for the sins of the Vatican, have to be taken with a hefty grain of salt and a quirked eyebrow. The successive governments of Italy have been on the payroll and at the trough of the Holy See like nearly everyone else. It's only when they feel the eyes of the world upon them as the source of all this bunk and violence that they crack down on the Vatican, yet you will notice that the Vatican, or something like it, always continues to exist. We don't need more government reform or any more excuses for the deplorable conditions we all face, the wars and economic upheavals, the enslavements, the poverty, the injustices, the rigged commodity markets, the false flags, the drugs, and now, the phony man-made diseases. What we need is to change our minds, change the way we see things, change the lens through which we view the world. Then everything snaps into focus. We no longer wonder why Donald Trump doesn't use the Insurrection Act and flush Congress down the toilet as any sane person in his position should do. We no longer wonder why Americans can't carry guns in what appears to be their own capital city. We know why all the major media outlets in this country are owned by foreign interests and why they all sound the same, monotonous, sanctimonious, and mindless note on cue. It's like listening to an off-key choir. We finally know, after Buckingham Palace is boarded up, why Britain is always at the bottom of every flaming dog pile. The next question is, what do we do about it? What does it take before we all band together and finally deal with the actual problem? All of us, from every corner of the world,